lado esquerdo do quadro, Bruce Weber, um homem branco, com barba branca, usa uma bandana preta ornamentada na cabeça, um lenço lilás no pescoço e uma blusa azul. Ao fundo, quadros com fotografias. Do lado direito do quadro, Duda Leite, um homem branco, careca, que usa uma camisa branca com desenhos em preto. Ao fundo, uma janela, vasos de plantas e prateleiras com discos e livros.
So, hi, Bruce. Nice,
Hey,
hi, nice to see you again after 2 years. And so we are doing this for the In-Edit Film Festival, which is a festival that is dedicated only to musical festivals, musical documentaries. And we are showing here this year, one of the main highlights is the screening of the 4K version of Let's Get Lost, your classic film from 1988. So to begin with, I'd like to ask you, do you remember the first time you heard Chet's music and which feeling did that give to you?
well, I was growing up in Pennsylvania, in a little farm town, and I went to Pittsburgh. That's the largest city near where I live, and they had a great record department at this store called Kaufman's, and I saw this album cover, and I just loved it. And I didn't know Bill Claxton at that time, and I saw it. I go, "Let's Get Lost." And that sounded really good to me, you know what I mean? And I wanted to get out of the small town and get to New York City. And so I bought the album and I went home and I played it immediately in my house. And I sat there with my dog, and just like I'm doing now with some of my dogs, and I fell in love with it. I was probably maybe I was 16, 17 at that time, before I went away to school. Yeah.
Wow. And since then, I mean, how did Let's Get Lost started? Meaning, like, I know it was probably it was a process to convince Chet to accept doing the film, right? He was not in a really good place in his career in 1988, right? So could you tell me, how did you approach him and how did you convince him that you wanted to do a film about him?
Well, it's like I say in the film, I never, you know, I never saw him. He was not allowed back in the United States. And if I was in Italy, he wasn't around, and or traveling through Europe. And the crazy thing about it is that it's so funny. I just can't even imagine thinking about it now. I was standing on the corner of 57th and 5th, right in front of Tiffany's. And all of a sudden, this car pulls up, and it's a convertible, and it's snowing. And he had the top down. And this guy, he had this really cool hairstyle, and he had a tweed jacket, but like a blazer, but all buttoned up, you know. And he had a cigarette in his mouth, and he's driving this car. And I was the only person on that corner that looked at him. Nobody stared at him. Like, just the fact this guy, this nutcase, is sitting in the car in the snowstorm. But it was so kind of incredibly romantic, you know. So I thought, oh, he must have broken up with his girlfriend or something like that, you know. Anyway, I went, oh my God, that's Chet Baker. I said it out loud. I'm surprised he didn't hear it. But he was listening to some jazz on his radio, and so I found out where he was playing that night in New York City, and I went down to this little club in the West Village, and Nan and I went together, and we listened to him, and he was there, and I went up and introduced myself to him, and he was with his girlfriend that time. And, you know, and I said, hey, listen, I love this song you did. It's an Oscar Levant song called Blame It on My Youth. And I said, would you ever do, like, let us film you? So he went, yeah, sure. And I said, how long are you staying here? He said, I don't know. And I said, where are you staying? He said, I'm staying at my bass player's apartment up in Harlem. And so I was with Jeff Price, the cameraman, and I said, well, how about tomorrow? It's Sunday. He went, yeah. He said, come by over at 12 o'clock. I said, you going to be up at 12? He said, yeah. He said, can you take a picture of me and Diane together? I said, sure. They sat there and they were talking. And he was snuggling up against her, and, you know, it was really nice. And it was very low key, you know. So me and my assistant, I had a very pretty girl who was my assistant then, Erin Fody, and she looked like a real pretty boy, you know. And it was so funny. And Jeff Price and myself, we went up there, and it was a really cold day. It was snowing still, and oh my God, it was so dreary. And we get up there and we get to this apartment building, and right out in front of this little building is a sign, like flashing on and off. It was like in a movie or something, you know? And so I go up, we go inside and knock up, and Chet answers the door. And you can tell like he just woke up, you know, his hair is standing up on edge, and he's got like a t-shirt on that, you know, this frail body. And he said, hey, I have to go somewhere right now. Can I borrow your car? And we were so naive, we said, sure. I said, but I have a driver downstairs in it. He went, yeah, that's okay. And, you know, and as he left, Jeff and I and Erin looked at each other and said, he's never coming back. You know what I mean? We're going to be sitting here for days and he's not coming back. So we said, okay, we better just sit down on the floor. We sat there and looked at that flashing light from that neon sign in front of that building. And we were just imagining him and imagining him singing the song we wanted him to do. And, but I liked him right away. I felt like I'd met him before in like a dream or something, you know. And he was so easy, but complicated, you know. And about 2 hours later, he came back. And I said, I got it. We all thought you'd never come back. And he went, yeah, I'm back, you know. I mean, you know. And I don't imitate him as good as my line producer, Emmy. She just imitates him perfectly. You know, she gets his voice down, his speaking voice and everything. And I said, well, so we did some stuff around the apartment, and sorry. And he was like, you know, he was good. And then finally he was getting really tired. And you know, I think he left us to get high, and he came back, and he was not sure about that, but it was good that I had that experience with him, because we always were really protective of him while we were making the film. A lot of people said to us, oh, why did he do the film? You know, and I said, well, I think he thought we were real square and we weren't doing any drugs. And I think he really liked that, you know. And I think if we had been like a real swinger and been doing drugs and really out of it, I think he would have never shown up, you know. So anyway, that's how it happened. And that one day, and I looked at the footage, and I really liked him in it, you know, this little film we shot for Blame It on My Youth. So I called him and I reached him, which was really, that's another miracle. And Nan, my wife and producer of the film, was on the phone too. And he was at like, it's kind of like number 10 motel somewhere he always liked staying at these little motels in cities by the Greyhound bus terminal, you know, and or some kind of bus terminal, wherever it was, what city he was in. And we said, hey, I'm going to be in LA. I said, on this date, are you going to be around? He said, yeah, I'm going to be up in San Jose with Diane. I said, well, why don't you come down and let's make a movie? Yeah, sure. Why not? You know, I mean, he was all excited about it. You know, it was really crazy. And now as I remember it, I think he was looking forward to it, you know. And he came down and I was out there working and he came down and we were staying at a hotel in Santa Monica, right overlooking the ocean, called the Shangri-La Hotel. And it was the sunniest day. And there was a knock at my door and it was him, all tan, a little t-shirt, white jeans, and you know, and like a little jean jacket, all white. And it was all tan, you know. And I said, God, Chet, you've been hanging at the beach. You look fantastic. And he went, yeah, but I just had a big fight with Diane and I left. And I just came down here without her. Well, I said it'd be good if she was around. It'd be good to hang out with her, get to know her. I'm sure you want her in your film, don't you? And he went, yeah. I don't know. We're not getting along right, you know. So anyway, he came there and that was the beginning, you know.
That's so nice. And I remember the last time we spoke, you said that you did the film sort of in a way to kind of rescue him, because as you were saying, like he was kind of wild, and we all know that he was wild. So I'd like to ask you, what was the craziest thing that happened during the film that you can share with us?
Well, I mean, you know, it wasn't as weird or crazy as you'd think, except that Diane always was causing him a lot of trouble, you know. He had this real crazy man and woman relationship. And the one thing about her is that she had great taste in music. He met her, she was playing drums in a pizza parlor. And it just happened that her brother, Robert Favre, I'm talking about Diane Favre's brother, was a wonderful photographer and photographed all the wild horses of the Camargue in France. And I knew those pictures really well. And I don't know, I guess, let me think about that for a second. Well, the recording studio when we first started the film.
Yeah, well, that you were recording for this album.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And the guy who owned this recording studio, and his last name was Moody, and he was always in a bad mood. And there was a little jazz recording studio, and real old school. And they had these beautiful old microphones, which Chet loved. And I remember that's the first day that I ever saw Chet wear his sandals with socks. And it was, oh my God, it looks really good. And I was with Jeff. We were really nervous. And I wanted to meet all my team that was working, all the sound guys and the filming guys. And they wouldn't come to meet me because I was from the East Coast and I was just new. And, you know, they were like these big film guys. And so we're in there and he's walking around, you know, his glasses are kind of falling off his face a little bit, you know, and they started recording. And I wanted to do a song that I always loved called Imagination. And so Chris Isaak was there, the musician, and Andy Minsker, a boxer who I made my first film with, Broken Noses.
Yes.
So he said, so Chet said, come on, let's do it. And, you know, we had a good guy on piano and bass and all that stuff, you know. And John Leftwich was a buddy of mine who did all with music, you know, did all the arranging and all that stuff like that. With Chet, there was no arranging, you know, it was like you just went for it, you know. So he said, well, let's do it. And the music started playing, and all the guys were talking over here, and guys were on the phone. And I mean, there was just no rhyme or reason. And he sang, and we're listening to it. And it sounds just like the pause we just had. You heard nothing.
Wow.
Except the piano. And I just said, well, there's my film. And it's, you know, I don't have one. So we stopped and we played it back. We did one take. And I said, oh, Jim, that's Jim Moody, who had the recording studio. I said, please, wait, I want to talk to everybody. Hey, guys, this is a great, great musician. Please show him respect and be quiet when he's performing. They looked at me like, you know, what drug is this guy on or something? And so they played it back. And everybody said, you know, like, who's this? They didn't know Chet Baker. They knew nothing of this stuff. They had such a bad attitude. And then that voice came out as if he was singing to each of us. And it was so exciting. I can't believe that's his voice. It was so beautiful. And when you listen to that song, listen to he sounds like a kid singing that song. It's so beautiful. Anyway, it reminded me a little bit of Ella Fitzgerald when I was out in San Francisco once, and I had a photographer for Rolling Stone, and she was screaming at a road manager and yelling and flipping out and everything. Not the Ella that I expected. And I went back to the audience and I said to my friends I was sitting with, I said, she's not going to come tonight. She walked on stage in a big dress, a gown, and she was wearing her glasses at that point. And she started singing, and she sounded like a child too. And it was just kind of a side note that day.
Oh, amazing.
And Chris Isaak said to Chet, boy, I've never heard anybody sound so soft and so sweet. Chet went, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I remember that was kind of a crazy moment, you know, because I thought my film was not going to happen. That happened a lot of times where I thought my film was not going to happen. One day we been working really hard filming, and we were really tired, the whole crew. And we all lived at this hotel. And somebody came to me on the production and they said, Bruce, we had a bad scene with Chet this morning. The guy who drives him around, I hired a guy who was a cousin of somebody who else was working on the film. And I just thought he was kind of like a little bit like a tough guy, you know, from New York. And he's driving that car, that Cadillac that they're driving back and forth in the film recording studio. And he knocked on the door, and Chet threw a bottle of orange juice right at him. Luckily it missed or would have gone right into his face.
Wow.
Because he was having a fight with Diane. He was always having a fight with Diane on something. So I was so angry at him. I went down to his room and I I knocked on the door and he wouldn't answer. I just opened it. And I said, Chet, come on, come over here. Where are you? And he went, hi. And I said, Chet, how could you throw a bottle at somebody? I knew I'd miss him, you know. And he's a nice guy. He's a really good guy. He said, I was fighting with Diane and I was in a really bad mood. I said, well, our filming, we're going to start shooting in about half an hour. You know, so why don't you grab some breakfast, get yourself together, put your suit on and come with us. We had I met so many people while making that film, and also the end of it, Nan and I did, where said to us, why aren't we in the film?
Yeah.
And they said, well, Chet lived with us for 6 months and was our babysitter. And I said, what, you hired Chet to take care of your child? He went, yeah, you know. He was really great with children because he was like a child himself, and he was great with animals. And that's one of the things that I liked so much about him, besides his music. And there wasn't a day go by where I really miss him. And so many people who work on that film will call each other up and say, what do you think he'd be doing right now if he was with us? Or, you know, Brad.
Yeah, I certainly miss hearing his voice. You know, he performed here in São Paulo once, but I missed it. I was too young. But anyways, but Bruce, I would like to ask you, your films are always very personal. And I told, before we started recording, I told you that I think all your documentaries are somehow very musical. And you said that I'm the first one to say that, which I think it's funny. But do you agree with that? I mean, because for instance, Chop Suey, you talk about Francis Faye. So, I mean, even A Letter to True, there's Marianne Faithfull, I know, just doing the voiceover, but you also have the Blossom Dearie soundtrack, which spoke about her the last time I talked to you. So do you understand? I mean, do you agree that all your films are musical somehow?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it just starts, you know, it's what I'm listening to at that time or how it relates to the film. And we're about to start on another film, and it's probably be the most musical film I've ever made besides Let's Get Lost. And but it's exciting because I love both mediums of film and music, especially together and then separate. And so anyway, yeah, you know, I mean, I definitely agree with you.
Can you share which is the subject of the new film? Now did you gave a spoiler to us, or
well, you know what it's like? I think talking about a movie you're about to make, it's like you can't talk about it because, you know, like when you're about to have a baby and people say, don't talk about it. Wait till you have the baby. That's what it's like for me.
Okay, that's perfect. But Bruce, coming back to Let's Get Lost then, last time we spoke, you told me a story that I thought was brilliant, which was when Chet was telling you a story about him and his dad traveling coast to coast, and then your Bolex camera, the film rolled on the camera. So could you tell that story? Do you remember what happened?
Oh, yeah, God. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. That was the beginning of us filming, besides filming him singing in the recording studio at first. And we're all up in the Shangri-La, and it was a beautiful morning. It's about 10 o'clock, 11, you know. And he's sitting there smoking, and Jeff's, you know, has his Bolex with him. And, you know, we were just beginning to make films, and this is somebody we admired so much, and we just wanted it to be a good thing for everybody. And so Chet started talking, and he said, and I said the same thing you just asked me. I said, Chet, tell me about your dad and driving down to California from Portland, Oregon. And he went, yeah. And he said, you know, we were driving, and my dad and I would just stop and pick oranges off the trees and eat them. And I just had that in my mind. I thought it was such a beautiful story. And he kept going on about it. And all of a sudden I hear this, and I look at Jeff, and Jeff had this look in his eyes and his glasses started coming down, and he's like freaking out. And he said, oh, I said, there's some dirt or something got into the camera and we have to stop. I can't do it again. I mean, he maybe said like 2 sentences, 3 sentences. He said, I'm a jazz musician. I just can't do it twice. I said, well, let's get the camera ready again and we'll start all over, And I said, and say it differently. We're always having to think of something to say to him, like instead of saying, behave yourself. What's wrong with you? Are you crazy? And I never met a woman at that time who ever met him that didn't want to take care of him, And I met a lot of guys too that wanted to take care of him. Everybody wanted to take care of Chet, and they knew they were asking for it. But he sings a song called You Don't Know What Love Is.
Yeah.
And I think it really epitomized him totally. He had so many people in love with him. And he kind of didn't, I don't think he knew how to translate it, except in music.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you think like he put all his, because I mean, when you listen to his voice, it's like hearing an angel. I don't know how to describe. It's like the sweetest voice you can ever think about. But the stories you are telling and that, there are all around, say that he was, again, pretty wild in interacting with other people. So would you say he would channel all his sweetness to his art?
I would definitely say that, yes. Because he, oh my God, sorry, that's my dog barking again. Anyway, okay, cool. Okay, he said, he wrote a lullaby for his son, which he only told us about at the last minute of the filming. He said, oh, I have another son. We've been filming like all this time, and he never mentioned his son. He talked about his other kids. And we said, Chet, why didn't you tell us? And he went, well, he just travels, and I don't really see him very often, So it was kind of crazy. But he sings the lullaby in the film. It's really, really, really beautiful. You have to understand, when we made this film, we wanted him to have that house he always wanted to have on the ocean. And also he could maybe live with Diane. He wanted to write some music. He wanted to write more music. And, maybe he loved animals, so he'd probably have a dog or a cat. And and that's what we all wanted for him. We were really hoping that it would be like a really nice thing, And he cleaned himself up, And we believed it was going to happen.
Yeah. Now, Bruce, I want to ask you a little bit about your method, because your working method, because like you said, okay, he didn't want to do something twice, and obviously he was a jazz musician. So I want to ask about your approach. Do you think your approach was also jazzy in the way, meaning like improvisational, meaning like, did you know exactly what you wanted to plan, or did you let it go and whatever happens, you've shot it? Because while watching the film, it's hard to know what was really planned and what just happened by chance.
Well, just like Chet said, I mean, I guess that's true, I guess because I'm making a film about a jazz musician, and I had to try to interpret what I was doing in that way, because we would plan something and it wouldn't happen, like the night we went to the bumper cars at the Santa Monica Pier. I mean, I didn't think that Chet would even want to come. And when he found out that he wasn't coming, he was like a little kid, almost like crying. I mean, he wasn't crying, but he was really upset. So I said, well, Chet, I'd love you to come, and you and Diane. He said, yeah, I really want to come, We just jumped into it, Sometimes we didn't know what we were doing, It was all very kind of just putting stuff together. One day we were waiting for him in Venice Beach, and we were sitting there, and we had to talk about some of the other musicians, who were in the film. And it was kind of wild what happened. We just found these little box of puppies in this alleyway, and so they just joined the film, and we filmed them. Jeff, we were filming them, and Jeff had his trusty Bolex there, and we just filmed them. And I love that part of the film, because it's the way I think jazz music is made, that I got to learn a little bit about it. You almost can't say you learn, because it just, that's why musicians who play jazz. I was reading something about Miles Davis recently, and just how he was always like learning and learning and learning, and you feel that in the music, Herbie Hancock was a good friend of my sister's, so I got to know him a little bit. He's such a great guy, so talented, and he really speaks so wonderfully about Miles Davis. It's really pretty incredible. So
yeah, and also about Chet, I was just before we began, I was just reading again the lines of the record that Herbie wrote about Chet, and it's beautiful. So what would you say that you learned from Chet, from this experience? I mean, you just said, okay, he didn't want to do anything twice, and as a jazz musician, what did you learn from him as a person, I guess?
well, I think I learned as a person that I didn't need to get drunk or high to get lost in my work and what I love to do, and to have a lot of gratitude for the fact that I bumped into people like Chet Baker in my life. I think that's what I learned to do.
Yeah, well, and just talking about, you just said you learn to get lost, and it's beautiful, because I think it's one of the most beautiful titles of a film. And it's funny to see your dogs behind you right now. They're playing.
They're fighting. They're not fighting, they're just playing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's like seeing a film from A Letter to True, which I told you the other time, just as an anecdote. I remember I went to the premiere at the Miami South Beach Regal Cinema with the seats for all the dogs, and Ricky Martin was there as well. It was one of the wildest premieres I've been in my life. So, yeah. Do you remember that? Of course.
Of course I do. Yes. And
Yeah.
no. That film had a lot of music in it too.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of music. Yeah. People have asked me questions about Chet all the time, and I always really try to tell it like it was, and not gloss over it like that. It wasn't easy. It was really hard, but we loved it. We stayed with it. And when we got the news that he passed away, we were all in the editing room, and somebody called us from Holland and told us, and we all just laid down on the floor, and we closed the editing room for about 2 weeks. And we all called each other and we said, let's try to finish this. That's really good. And we didn't have a lot of money to finish it, so we were worried. And I just went and I did every job I could do in terms of photography so that I got to do this film. And same with Nan, my producer. And it was like, oh, it was really painful to jump back in that world because we missed him. And yeah, that was a pretty crazy time for me. And but seeing the film and seeing what happened with the film and everything, people were really great to us when we played Venice Film Festival. And at the end of it, a screening, a lot of my crew was there with me. Nan and I had other people with us. And we were sitting on the balcony in the front row, I never forget it. And the place was silent. I went, oh no. And as I closed my eyes, it just wanted to go somewhere. They stood up and gave us one of the longest ovations that the Venice Film Festival ever had. And we all like went, what's going on? You know, do they like this film? We hope they do. And everybody just hugged each other and really, really wished that Chet had been there. We talked about it so much because he loved Venice, and we talked about so much being there with him, you know? Yeah, that was like a really amazing moment and a great reward, you know, that you can love doing something and it can be really great, but it can't be exactly the way that you dreamed it.
Yeah, well, I guess with that beautiful story, I guess we can. I mean, we could go on for a long time, but I'm sure you have something else to do. And anyways, it was a pleasure talking to you again. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I hope to next time to see you in person, hopefully here in São Paulo, Brazil. I know you've been to Rio, but I don't know if you've been to São Paulo before, have you?
No, I've never been to São Paulo. I want to come back to Rio because, you know, I did a book there, you know, and I had an amazing time, you know, I just really enjoyed it. And now that's many years ago, I'd like to go and see how it changed, you know, and to even revisit some of the people that I photographed, you know, and so that would be really cool, you know, that'd be nice.
Yeah, definitely. So
I do want to say one thing to you that I forgot to tell you. Nan gave me a birthday party once when we were in the middle of the filming, and Nan brought Chet to New York City as a gift for me to sing at the party, and also Astrid Gilberto.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
they had met in Brazil, and he really liked her a lot, and she really liked him. Like they both admired each other's work so much. And so she sang with him and everything. And we recorded the evening. And the person that did the recording lost it.
Oh my God. No. Oh my God. Wow. Because I was so excited. I want to see that. But anyway, so
I know. I know we all do.
All right. Well, Bruce,
right.
okay. Thank you so much for doing this.
And I hope you enjoy yourself at the festival. Congratulations.
Yeah, definitely. And I hope to see you maybe next year here as a guest physically in São Paulo, okay?
Well, maybe I'll have my little musical film finished, and so then maybe I can come, you know?
Okay. It's a deal. Thank you so much,
bye.
Bruce.
Okay,
Okay,
bye.
bye. Bye.